Imagine you're walking into a movie theater. I mean, the biggest, loudest IMAX in the world. And you sit down with your popcorn, but when the screen flashes on, it's just total, heavy, chaotic black. No trailers. No, please silence your cell phones. Just avoid.
That sounds like a really bad Friday night, Chris. Or maybe a very expensive art film. I'm not sure I'd stay for the credits on that one.
Exactly. It's an art film. But here's the kicker. For the people who first heard the words of Genesis, that black screen wasn't just a lack of light. It was a terrifying, watery mess. It wasn't just nothing. It was a state of not yetness.
Well, welcome everyone to Bible in a Year, making it easier to understand. I'm Jessica Johnson, the one usually asking, wait, Chris, what does that actually mean? And this is Chris Cross, the guy who sees the Bible in 4K high def.
Hey everyone, we are starting at the absolute top today. Genesis 1, 2, and 3. The Big Bang of the Bible, though, spoiler alert, it's way more personal than just physics. It's the pilot episode for the entire human race.
So, Chris, let's jump right in. We're in Genesis 1, verse 1. The ESV says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." It feels very grand, very official. But you mentioned something earlier about this being a diss track against the other ancient stories. Can we unpack that?
Oh, it 100% is. See, we read this as a science textbook sometimes, right? Like, okay, step 1, light. Step 2, sky. But the original audience? They were living in a world where everyone else was terrified of the gods. The Babylonians had this story called the Enuma Elish.
Wait, the Enuma, what? Sounds like a fancy coffee order.
Enuma Elish. It translates to when on high. In that story, the world is created because two gods got into a massive, bloody street fight. The hero god, Marduk, kills the sea goddess, Tiamat, and, this is the gross part, he rips her body in half like a piece of dry fish to make the sky and the earth.
Okay, so creation by murder? That's incredibly dark, Chris. I can't imagine trying to explain that to a kid at bedtime.
Super dark. And it meant that for everyone else in the ancient world, the universe was born out of violence and chaos. You were just a byproduct of a divine war. But then, boom, Genesis 1 drops, and it says there was no fight, no wrestling match. God just spoke.
He just said it, and it happened. Let there be light, and there was light. That's a huge shift in the vibe, isn't it? It goes from a battlefield to a studio.
Yes, like a lead designer with admin rights to the universe. He's not fighting the deep, which in Hebrew is Tihom, a word that sounds suspiciously like that goddess Tiamat. Genesis is basically saying, hey, that big scary sea monster you're all afraid of? To our God, it's just water. It's just a puddle health. He's about to organize.
That's actually really comforting. It changes the big question from, are the gods going to kill me today, to what is the designer making? But I have to ask about that first word, Bereshit. I've been doing some digging, and some people say it shouldn't even be translated as in the beginning.
Oh, you're going into the Hebrew weeds. I love it. Okay, so here's the deal. Traditional Bibles like our ESV say in the beginning. But grammatically, Bereshit is often what we call a construct state.
Okay, plain English rule, Chris. What is a construct state?
Right, sorry. Think of it like a bound word. It's not just beginning. It's the beginning of. So some scholars think it should read, when God began to create.
Does that change the story? That sounds like God started with a fixer-upper instead of building from scratch. Does that mean the mess was already there?
It's a massive debate. If it's in the beginning, then God created everything out of nothing, ex nihilo. If it's when he began, it focuses more on God bringing order to the mess that was tohu vavohu, formless and empty. But either way, the point is the same. God is the one holding the remote. He is the only one in the room when the lights go on.
I love the image in verse 2, though. It says the earth was without form and void, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. That word hovering, it feels very gentle for such a chaotic scene.
It is. The Hebrew word is merachephet. It's rarely used, but it shows up later to describe an eagle fluttering over its nest to protect its young.
Wait, really? So instead of a cold, distant force, we have God like a parent over a cradle? In the middle of the dark?
Exactly. Even when the world is a formless wasteland, God is already there, brooding over it, getting ready to bring life out of the wreckage. It's the ultimate no-jargon lesson. God doesn't walk away from the mess. He hovers over it until it's time to speak.
I need that on a t-shirt. He hovers over the mess. But Chris, we have to talk about the sun and moon thing. Why does Genesis call them the two great lights instead of just, the sun and the moon?
This is the diss track part again. In every other culture back then, the sun and the moon were gods. If the author of Genesis used their Hebrew names, Shemesh and Yeriach, it would be like calling them by their god names.
So it's a deliberate snub? Like God is refusing to tag them in the post?
Total snub. It's like God is saying, oh, those big terrifying deities you worship? In my house, they're just lamps. They're great lights. I put in the ceiling to help you tell time. He takes the scary god of the sun and turns him into a cosmic IKEA light fixture.
A cosmic IKEA lamp. I love it. But let's get to the climax. Day 6. Humans. Verse 26. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. This feels like the biggest claim in the whole chapter.
It's the verified blue checkmark moment, Jessica. In the ancient world, only the king was considered the image of God. The average person? You were just a slave created to feed the gods because they were too lazy to cook for themselves.
Are you serious? Humans were created as celestial delivery drivers?
Literally. In the Babylonian story, the gods rest because humans are now doing the toil for them. But in Genesis, God creates humans and then tells them to rule. He takes this image of God status, this imago Dei, and he gives it to everyone. Men, women, everybody.
So, for the modern seeker listening, you aren't a random accident of atoms. You aren't a slave to the system. You have this official seal of worth that can't be canceled by anyone.
You're the pinnacle, Jessica, the high point of the whole show. God finishes everything else, looks at humanity, and says, behold, it was very good. Not just good, very good.
It's such a beautiful start. But then we get to the 7th day. God rests, which... Wait, does God get tired? Does he need a nap after making the galaxies?
No, he's not winded. The word for rest, Shabbat, isn't about a nap. It's about ceasing, because the work is finished. It's like a grand opening ceremony. The building is done, the ribbons are cut, and now he's just hanging out in the space he made.
So it's not that he's off the clock. It's that the community phase has begun.
Exactly. He invites us into that rest. But as we're about to see, that hanging out phase gets complicated pretty fast.
Yeah. Things are about to get very messy in the garden. But before we get to the malware in the system, let's take a quick break.
Stay with us. When we come back, we're zooming in from the whole universe down to a single garden, and we're going to find out why there was good gold and onyx in the middle of God's headquarters.
We'll be right back. And we are back. If you're just joining us, Chris was just explaining how Genesis 1 is basically God's lead designer moment. But now, we are shifting gears. Chris, Genesis 2 feels different. It's like in a movie where the first scene is a sweeping aerial shot of a whole galaxy, and then the next scene is a tight, shaky cam close-up of a guy in his backyard.
That is exactly what it is. It's the ultimate zoom in. We go from the macrocosmos to the micro-intimacy. And if you're reading closely in your ESV, you'll notice the name of God actually changes here. In chapter 1, it was just Elohim, God the Creator. But in chapter 2, verse 4, we see the Lord God, Yahweh Elohim.
Yahweh, that's the personal name, right? The covenant name.
Spot on, Jessica. It's like going from calling someone the CEO to calling them dad. It's personal, it's relational. And this is where we see God get his hands dirty. Verse 7 says, he formed the man of dust from the ground. He's not just speaking from a distance anymore. He's like a potter at a wheel, shaping every thumbprint.
I love that. But then, and this is the part that always confuses me, the story takes this weird detour. We're in this beautiful garden, and suddenly the Bible starts giving us a geography lesson. It talks about 4 rivers, and then it mentions gold and onyx. Verse 12 literally says, and the gold of that land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. Chris, why are we talking about jewelry in the middle of creation?
Okay, here is the hidden gem, pun intended. This is why we call Eden God's flagship headquarters on Earth. Those materials aren't just random. Think about it. Where else in the Bible do you see good gold and onyx?
Uh, the tabernacle? The temple?
Exactly. When God later tells Moses to build the tabernacle, his mobile headquarters in the desert, he tells him to use gold and onyx stones for the high priest's garments, specifically the shoham stones, the onyx, that went on the high priest's shoulders.
Wait, so the garden isn't just a park? It's a temple?
It's the original temple, Jessica. Eden is the place where heaven and earth overlap. It's the VIP lounge of the universe. Even the rivers flowing out of Eden, like the Pishon and the Gihon, show that Eden is the source of life for the whole world. It's like the main server that powers all the other workstations.
That changes how I see Adam's job. Verse 15 says, "The Lord God put the man in the garden to work it and keep it." I always just pictured him with a lawnmower and some hedge clippers.
Adam's landscaping services. No, it's way deeper. The Hebrew words for work and keep are abad and shamar. These are the exact same words used later to describe the duties of the priest in the tabernacle.
So Adam wasn't just a gardener. He was a priest?
He was the first priest in the first temple. His job wasn't just pulling weeds, it was guarding the sacred space. It was keeping the vibe of God's presence pure. And that's our modern mirror for today. Your work isn't just a paycheck. Whatever you're doing, whether you're coding, teaching, or making lattes, you are working and keeping the world God gave you. You're a priest in your own little corner of the Flagship Store.
That actually gives me a lot of dignity in my Monday morning routine. But, Chris, let's get to the big question. God looks at Adam, who is literally living in paradise with the creator of the universe, and God says, "It is not good."
Right. The first not good in history. Verse 18. It is not good that the man should be alone.
Which is so weird, right? He has God. Why is he alone?
Because humans are co-op by design, Jessica. We aren't solo players. God says, I will make him a helper fit for him. Now we have to pause here because that word helper, ezer, has been used to make women sound like assistants or second-tier employees for centuries. And that is a massive translation malware in our brains.
Fix it for us, Chris. What does Ezer actually mean?
In the rest of the Bible, ezer is almost always used to describe God. God is our ezer and our shield. You wouldn't call God your assistant, right? Ezer means strength or rescue. It's a necessary ally.
So the woman isn't the admin assistant, she's the reinforcements?
Exactly. Adam is out there trying to manage the garden, and God is like, you need a partner with the same admin rights as you. And look how he makes her. He doesn't use the dust this time. He takes a rib, or the Hebrew tsela, which actually means side, from Adam.
I've heard it said. He didn't take it from his head to rule over him or his feet to be walked on, but from his side to be equal.
It's even more technical than that. The word for built, bana, is used in verse 22. God built the woman from the side of the man. Bana is the word used for, wait for it, building a temple.
You are obsessed with this temple thing today, Chris.
Because it's all connected. The woman is the final touch on the temple. And when Adam sees her, he doesn't just say, cool, a roommate. He drops the first poem in human history. This, at last, is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh.
It's the first I love you without the words I love you. He recognizes that she is his mirror image. Verse 25 says, they were both naked and were not ashamed.
No shame. No security breach. Their data was totally exposed, and they were 100% okay with it. They had total transparency mode turned on. No filters, no ghosting, no pretending to be someone else on social media. Just pure, uncanceled relationship.
It sounds like the perfect community phase. I wish we could just stay here in the script, Chris. It's so peaceful.
I know, but the chapter break is coming. And as any movie fan knows, when things are this perfect in the first act, a security threat is usually waiting in the shadows.
Yeah, we're moving from the transparency of Chapter 2 to the gaslighting of Chapter 3.
It's time to talk about the Shining One and the original relationship malware.
We'll be right back to talk about the fall and the promise that God was already preparing to fix the system. And we are back for the final stretch. If you're just joining us, Chris and I have been basically living in the high-definition glory of Genesis 1 and 2. We've seen the lead designer speak the universe into existence, and we've seen God build his flagship headquarters in a garden that was actually a temple.
It was perfect, Jessica. Total transparency mode. No filters, no shame, just two people, and God hanging out in the cool of the day. But now, we hit Genesis 3, and the vibe changes.
It really does. It starts with one of the most famous, and honestly, for many of our listeners, the most confusing characters in the whole Bible, the serpent.
Okay, hold the phone. This is where we have to do a major security update on our thinking. Most people picture a garden variety snake slithering in the grass, right? But the Hebrew word here is Nahash.
Right, Nahash. It just means snake, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no. This is the hidden gem of chapter 3. The root word nun chet shin can mean to hiss, but it also means to shine, or the shining one.
Wait, so Eve wasn't talking to a reptile? She was talking to a shining one?
Exactly. Ancient readers wouldn't have just seen a snake. They would have envisioned a radiant, celestial being, maybe even a divine guardian gone rogue. Think of it as an insider threat within God's own administration. This wasn't some animal. This was a high-level security breach from someone who knew the system.
Wow, Chris. So it's not just a talking animal, it's a brilliant, radiant deceiver. And his first move, it's a masterclass in what we'd call gaslighting today, isn't it?
100%. Look at verse 1. He doesn't start with a lie. He starts with a question. Did God actually say? He's casting doubt. He's taking God's protective boundary. Don't eat from this one tree, and reframing it as an abusive restriction.
It's the original FOMO, the fear of missing out. He's making Eve feel like God is holding out on her, like the lead designer is gatekeeping the best parts of the world.
Right. He tells her, you will not surely die. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. And this is the malware moment, Jessica. To know good and evil in this context isn't just about information. It's about the admin rights to define what is good and evil for yourself.
Instead of trusting the designer's manual, they wanted to write their own code.
Boom. And as soon as they eat, the security system crashes. Verse 7. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked.
It's so heartbreaking. They go from transparency mode to privacy mode instantly. They sew fig leaves together to hide. It's the world's first data masking.
And then they do what we all do when we mess up. They ghost God. They hear him walking in the garden, and they hide.
But I love God's response. He doesn't come in with a banhammer. He asks a question. Where are you? He obviously knows where they are, Chris.
He's a parent calling out in the dark, Jessica. He's giving them a chance to come clean. But instead of an apology, we get the world's first blame shift. Adam blames Eve, and actually blames God for giving him Eve, and then Eve blames the serpent.
It's like a toxic group chat where no one will take the L. It's just finger pointing all the way down.
Exactly. And that leads to the consequences. The ground is cursed. Toil enters the chat. Childbearing becomes painful. But, and here is the kicker, Jessica, in the middle of the wreckage, God drops a spoiler alert for the rest of history.
You're talking about Genesis 3, verse 15, the Protoevangelium.
The first gospel. God tells the serpent that the offspring, or the seed of the woman, is going to strike his head, even while the serpent strikes his heel.
So even while they are being evicted from the garden, God is already announcing the rescue mission.